How will the Calgary real estate market be in the year 2022? We already have a very strong seller's market. Would we see the same trend going further? This is something we're going to talk about today. 2022 forecast for the Calgary real estate market. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, my name is Cameron Faisal. I am a real estate agent with Urban Realty in Calgary, Alberta, and today we are going to talk about the forecast for Calgary real estate market in 2022. We have prices of various property types that have already moved quite a bit in January and February. We still have shortage of inventory, high demand, and low interest rate for mortgages. So what to expect moving ahead? Let's start with some of the stats and data from Calgary Real Estate Board. According to Calgary Real Estate Board, in 2021, the benchmark price for an average house in Calgary increased by 8% compared to 2022. Now we continued to see this increase in the prices in January and February this year. 2021 was indeed a best year in terms of sales of the properties in Calgary. Now let's talk about three main factors that are pushing the real estate prices upward. Less inventory, high demand, and low interest rate. Right now in Calgary, we have a very low inventory of properties available for sale in the market. In fact, from January's data, we have only 3 weeks of inventory available. What that means is that if we have no more inventory coming into the market, with the current average sale per day, we would be able to sell all the properties within 3 weeks. Historically in Calgary, and generally speaking in Alberta real estate market, we always had less inventory available in winter times. And that's why we have less real estate activity happening in winter. However, this year and last year was an anomaly. Now looking into the historical trends, in spring and summer, we will most likely have more inventory coming into the market. But the activity in the market will also increase during this time. This year we are going into spring with already increased market activity. And even though if we have more inventory coming into the market in spring and summer, I don't see that this inventory will be enough that it meets all the demand for various type of properties in Calgary. So I do not expect that it will have a significant impact on the prices of the properties and bring the prices down. It may balance out the sharp increase in the prices of the properties, but the prices are not coming down. Now, this is all we were talking about the resales. Now, if we talk about the new builds that are offered from the builders, looking into the current development across the city, the number of lots that's going to be available, and the number of properties under construction, overall, it's not a huge number. Not enough that the builders will be able to add enough properties into the market to balance the inventory shortage. At least not for this year, which again means that the inventory will remain low, which eventually means that the prices of the properties will remain high and will most likely have an increasing trend. Now let's talk about the second factor, high demand. Before we discuss the current increase in the demand for real estate, let's start with how we reached here. So in 2014-2015, we saw a downward trend in our province economy, and one of the main reasons for that was the slowdown in oil and gas sector. And as Alberta's economy is mainly dependent on oil and gas, we saw a significant impact of that on our economy. The impact of that was obviously felt on the real estate market. I still remember that in 2015, it was those over $1 million houses, the demand for which decreases and the prices for those kind of falling down. Those were followed by an average single family homes and then other type of properties in Calgary. Around 2019, we pretty much hit the bottom of our regular economic cycle. In the summer of 2019, even though it was a buyer's market, we saw the market started balancing out. And we saw some increase in demand for the residential properties. In the beginning of 2020, COVID hit, and it was an anomaly in the recovery cycle of our real estate market. Our first prediction during COVID was that the property prices will go down 20 to 25% by the end of December 2020. But it was pretty much an opposite of that. Initially, we saw the impact of COVID in terms of less demand and then decrease in the property prices. People who sold in panic sold their properties on relatively lower prices as compared to the actual value of the properties. But when we realized that it's not really the end of the world, the demand for the property prices started increases. And initially, this was for the group of people who realized that they can now work from home and they need a bigger space, and that's why they wanted to move and need a bigger property. And at that time, with less inventory available in the market, this was the first kick in the increase in the demand for real estate. There were also millennials within the age group of 25 to 35 who were kind of waiting for the market to get better so they can get into that market. And all of this was because of the lowest interest rate available at that time, as well as the savings that people had at that time due to the lockdown or working from home. Last year, we also saw a significant number of out-of-province buyers who wants to buy a property, generally to move to Calgary and live in that property. The second out-of-province factor was the investors, and we saw quite a few of them coming into the Calgary market last year, but last year their focus was mostly the new builds. What we are seeing right now is an increased interest of these out-of-province investors for the resales, which during January and currently in February really pushing the demand upward. The reason why I included this lengthy preamble for how we reached to this high demand is for you to understand that in a real estate economic cycle, when the demand start increasing and considering all those local buyers as well as the out of province buyers factor, it does not come down that quickly. One other factor that we should also consider in the demand for the real estate market is the economic recovery in our province. The increase in the oil and gas prices will have a positive impact on the Alberta's economy. That will most likely add to the increasing demand of the local real estate market. So at the end of the day, I don't think that the demand for the real estate market will decrease soon. And we will continue to see an increase in demand for various type of properties in Calgary and by and large in Alberta, at least for the first 3 quarters of the year. Lastly, my final point regarding demand is that currently, the high demand is kind of focused on a specific type of properties. Single family, detached, and less than 15 to 20 years old. However, the demand for this specific category of properties is pulling up the demand and the prices for other type of properties in Calgary. Apartments were the only sector where we really did not see any activity until last December, January. This sector is now showing some activity, and we can see that the apartments that were available in the market last December, January, and they were in the market for quite some time, they are all sold. So this year, we will most likely see an increase in demand for apartments that will eventually have an increase in the prices for these apartments. If you are an investor and even a buyer for which the apartment kind of fulfill your needs, you should go for apartments this year. If the demand increases, we will for sure see a 5 to 6% increase in prices of the apartments this year. Now let's talk about the third factor, which is the interest rates. This is the factor, the impact of which on the demand as well as the prices will be significant. So right now we are still at a very low interest rate. We do know that the interest rates eventually will go up. Now it could be in 2 different ways. If the Bank of Canada, who manages the interest rates, decides to have an increase in the interest rates slowly and in small intervals, for example, at the interval of 0.25 over 3 to 6 months time period, The impact of that on the demand for real estate and eventually on the prices of the property will be less. However, if the Bank of Canada decided that they would like to increase the interest rate quickly and in a larger interval, this is going to most likely have a significant impact on the demand for real estate as well as the prices of the properties. Personally, I do not feel that the Bank of Canada will quickly and in a larger interval increase the interest rates, as the government of Canada has already borrowed so many loans from the banks on these low interest rate during COVID. And if there is a significant increase in the interest rate quickly, it will be a challenge for government of Canada to pay these loans back to the banks. So in nutshell, what we can predict for the real estate market in Calgary in 2022 is that we're going to still see an increase in demand for the properties. We will still have low inventory available, and this would basically cause an increasing trend in the prices, at least for the first 2 to 3 quarters of this year. Hopefully this video was helpful to you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.